Group number 6, we have had this topic, ambiguity in linguistic expressions, in the case of lexical ambiguity. So, we have group numbers, let me start that up. So, first we are considering ambiguity as a pervasive feature of language. So, ambiguity exists, ambiguous expressions exist widely in all natural languages at all levels of language. So, ambiguous expressions can be viewed from three perspectives. That is, first one is language use. The use of ambiguity towards various communicative ends, for example, humor, negotiation, threat, taboo, etc. Then, this ambiguity can be viewed as a language processing. That's the effect of a state of mind. The individuals, those who are involved in the ambiguous communications, the emotional state or the readiness of their perception. Then, finally, it can be viewed as a language system. Ambiguity as an inherent part of language, linguistic system. It is an essential part of linguistic system. Considering this thing, ambiguity pervades the linguistic system at all levels. We have a phonological ambiguity. For example, C versus C. The forms, sounds are same, but the meanings and the sentence word structure is different. And then we have lexical ambiguity. Take for example, crane, the bird, versus the equipment, but the meaning is somewhat related regarding the appearance of the bird and the appearance of the construction equipment. And finally, we have structural ambiguity. This is the best example that given from our group. I saw a girl with a telescope, which means that I saw a girl who is having a telescope, or I saw a girl through a telescope. So this is the structural ambiguity. And this project examines lexical ambiguity from the perspective of linguistic system. We are considering lexical ambiguity alone. And here, ambiguity in another angle, ambiguity can be viewed as a problem and as a solution. Let us see how it is viewed as a problem. Now, this century, the past century, this century, 20th century need of scientific enterprise is that a system of expression which should be clear, precise, and computable. We need more clear, we need more precise, and it should be a computable one. So, the natural language that we are having was found to be ill-suited to these needs, and as it was perceived to be vague and ambiguous. So, this thing, in this angle, Chomsky's doubt whether the language evolved as a system of communication, that doubt can be related to the suspicion of idle language philosophers that natural language is not an effective tool of communication. We can relate that doubt to this suspicion. Now, ambiguity can be viewed as a solution for what? Ordinary language philosophy opened a door for exploration of language in its natural settings, that is the usage, the communication paradigm. And assuming that the context is informative, system in addition to the context should be considered as the unit of analysis in the communicative system. So we are going to analyze the system plus the context. Context allows for linguistic resources to be potentially ambiguous as they can be disambiguated in the light of contextual information, because context gives us the way to disambiguate the content. And considering this, we have an unambiguous combinatoric system would have a high degree of redundancy. We will have repeated information about that. So, given that morphosyntactic systems are combinatoric, one would expect a degree of ambiguity in the system. There must be a degree of ambiguity. This sort of formulation explains to some degree why all natural languages are inherently ambiguous and combinatoric. This is the reason why all natural languages are ambiguous. And considering the ambiguity, and we must have this thing, principle of economy. So, principle of economy states that lexical ambiguity is constrained by the principle of economy. We need least effort to have maximum impact. So, principle of economy has two aspects. One is the brevity of expression, the short and sweet manner, and then well differentiated correlation between sound and meaning. As part of listeners, we need a well differentiated meaning between sound and well differentiated correlation. And these two opposing forces are at work, and any utterance can partly be seen as a trade-off between these two opposing requirements. Polysemy, we have taken polysemy, can be seen as a result of this sort of trade-off. And there is an attempt to correlate polysemy with the frequency of occurrence, which is formulated by Zipf's law. Number of meanings of a word is directly proportional to the square root of the frequency of its occurrence. So recently, researchers like Gibson and Peter have formulated these trade-offs in terms of clarity and ease of expression. So we need clarity, we need an ease easy way to express our as a content. A clear communication being the one in which the intended meaning can be recovered from the signal with high probability, and an easy communication is one which signals are efficiently produced, communicated and processed. So clarity and ease are the opposed, and communication is a trade-off between these two. And we can see about the polysemy and its ease of reuse. Polysemy plays a major role in the historical development of word meanings because lexims continuously shape their meanings and develop new meaning variants. Polysemy allows for the reuse of easy words, and thus more frequent words have many meanings. Polysemous words can be seen as potentially ambiguous. Thus, ambiguity results from the rational process of communication. That's a trade-off. We can see the cross-linguistic examples of polysemy. The word "they" from Marathi, it means that give. When it is used with the text, "Can't they?" It stands like listen carefully. So the give, it has a metaphoric. The lived experience has an abstract domains. It's extended to the abstract domains. Like all the words "madde," "shabde," and "akaravasde," "thyalukavde." These are things that has extensions. And we can see the word "kodu," the same meaning, give in Kannada. Hanakodu means literally giving something. Hanakodu means give money. But you can see that the word next, Kivikodu, it's listen carefully. So the same extension happens again. Even in Tamil also, this thing. Panam means is give me money, and Kadu means ear in Tamil. We are saying this thing as to listen carefully. So these are the extensions, the examples for these extensions. And here we observe that the verb corresponding to the verb used with a number of shades of meaning. And one can identify a basic meaning of the verb which should correspond to our experience of the action of giving. The semantics of A, gave an object X to B, can be loosely stated as follows. This thing. And can go through that. And this basic meaning is then extended to other domains of human experience, creating various shades of meaning of the verb, rendering it polysemous. The end product is polysemous. We can see about the relationship between polysemy and embodiment, which is the primary target of this project. Considering this embodiment principle, which possesses a continuum between body and mind, we can say it as a physical experience, lived experience, which has been extended to the abstract domain or extensions. It argues that our conceptual system, language that is part of it, is constrained by our physical body. That is, our NIAS schemas and metaphorization influence the way of our language and other conceptual systems are structured. Now, let us see the physical lived experience. The physical lived experience has been transferred with a scheme of abstract domains, the extensions. Now, ambiguity as a result of polysemy. The Marathi word "mala ushi maulatte." It's a straight two meanings. I feel the pillow soft or I need the pillow soft. So, the polysemous nature of latte makes the sentence potentially ambiguous. And thus we conclude that examples of lexical ambiguity are a result of polysemy, and also polysemy makes the linguistic system flexible and adaptable to new environments. That's what the primary finding is, the conclusion. So polysemy as a project, it's a minimum effort and maximum impact. Future direction for this research is that corpus-based analysis can be done to examine the correlation between morphological complexity of words, frequency of occurrence and polysemy. Also, from my background as a psychologist, I should psychological experiments can be done to verify the correlation between embodiment and polysemy. These are the references you can go through. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Yeah, question.
Would it be that the very way in which we posit the relationship between lexical entries and meanings is responsible for us speaking about there being such a phenomenon as polysemy? Since we speak that there is a central meaning and there are secondary meanings,
it's essentials.
So is our definition of polysemy an artifact of our understanding of the relationship between word and meaning?
Actually, my response on limited at this thing. Let's seek some help from my project group.
You are saying that the various meanings of a particular word is not organized in a particular basic way.
To call them the various, so to speak that there is a word, like we have an expectation that a word has roughly one central meaning and therefore these other peripheral meanings. So I'm just saying that could it be that the nature of language and the nature of communication itself has to deal with pluralities and not with, say, a rigid word meaning?
No, of course it has to do with pluralities, and that's what we are trying to. How do these pluralities come into existence? So someone asked me the meaning of the word give. The meaning which I would give would be what I call the basic meaning.
No, but who in everyday conversation does that, except the linguist?
No, not necessarily.
I think the sharper version of the same question, not necessarily one I would, is the lexicon itself an invention of the linguist rather than of the mind? So possibly there is no such thing as the lexicon.
Yes, but so a lexicon existing apart from the grammar may be a model specific thing, but there are
because even children are very rarely taught lexical items explicitly. Nobody points to think this is cow, that is grass, so it's possible that the lexicon is at best an output of a long cognitive process rather than the building blocks of.
Yes, but that cognitive process is an organized, structured process. That's what I'm trying to say. That the meanings, basic meanings, and you have peripheral meanings.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, is it possible that it may not necessarily be that?
Well, the research shows it to be. How do you prove it otherwise? Because, for example, which we have given the word give. I think the word give has a prominent significance.
I may be biased into that because we are living in a world of dictionary.
Not necessarily.
For example, if you ask someone what does the word Shyamala in Sanskrit mean, they will give you the whole bunch of connotations and not just give what is the so-called most likely meaning of it. So it has a range of meaning from green to blue to dark to a bunch of other things.
So you're saying that if, let's say a person who does not live in a world of dictionary, asking a Sanskrit person would be problematic.
They don't live in world of dictionaries. Their dictionaries aren't like your dictionaries.
But suppose I meet a person who's never been to school or who does not the scale of India or writing. If I ask him the meaning of the word give, what he would give me all the meanings of the word give.
But I'm just saying this act of asking the meaning of the word give is the act of
probably I'm trying to understand the language, I'm trying to learn the language. And I say that how do you say give in your language? I suppose I ask that question.
It's a second language learning question.
Probably.
Meaning, so which brings me to my.
So I'm not trying to link it to language learning. What I'm trying to say that organization of meanings is not equal.
So I think the argument is about, it's not really against an organized thing. I think what Naresh was trying to point out is like when you identify a core and the peripheral, I mean what's the basis of this identification of the core versus the peripheral?
The basis of identification is psychological experiments done with speakers of language. And they actually do organize.
I'm saying that the experimental design is biased with such data.
Not necessarily.
I think that should potentially be controllable.
Not necessarily.
I mean, in the sense that you can control, do better experimental design and see if these things are solicited. I mean, I have in a sense the opposite question almost, which is that in all everyday situations we rarely experience ambiguity.
Right.
Which is that which is in a sense maybe buttressing Naresh's claim that despite the endemic polysemy of words, sentences when heard in context rarely have that kind of phenomenon. So unless you are explicitly expressing ambiguity. So if somebody asks you, do you like Coke or Pepsi, you might say, I'm not sure. So those are, except for those kinds of explicit expressions of ambiguity, we rarely experience the girl who I saw through the telescope or something like that. Right? I mean, so why is it that ambiguity in the lexicon doesn't seem to show itself in the utterance? In context.
That's what we try to put on another slide. That utterance or act of communication is primarily contextual, and that context in which you use the word or you utter the sentence would help the listener to disambiguate or choose amongst one of the meanings intended.
But
I have-
what would be necessary, sorry, just to insist upon this point, is that if you need to argue that somehow having multiple meanings in the lexicon is a good thing when you want to express an unambiguous term in context. Right? That's an argument that needs to be made, that it's not just somehow accidental that there is polysemy, that it's in fact a design feature that allows you to be unambiguous in context.
Yeah.
We need that can be made.
We tried to make that point.
Sorry.
No, actually, one was what you just asked, and the other one is like, I mean, it's kind of intuitive. It's fine. So if there is an ambiguity, context will disambiguate it. I mean, so again, such a lot of things are being done on contextual specifications and everything. So I just wanted to know from you, like when you're talking about lexical ambiguity, what kind of context are you taking into place? So what's the context for you, which can disambiguate?
So context, maybe context, so we generally talk about context in which, the external context in which the speaker and the listener lie.
Which includes what? The social status, the age, the peer group?
No, you can go at if it's higher than the same. For example, the ongoing discourse, what are they talking about? It can be social status. It can be a lot of other things.
But if you take those things, it's called the lexicon.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But then it becomes pragmatic ambiguity, right?
No, what I'm trying to say is that the lexicon is polysymous. How does the listener or the speaker choose one of the meanings?
Correct. We are asking the same
So
thing.
that
We are saying that when you
act of choice occurs only in a particular context. But the speaker has a knowledge of all the possible meanings of the word.
What if the choice of the speaker never at the lexical unit word level? I speak whole sentences. I don't speak words. Does colloquial language have ambiguity? Very little.
So I'm not saying
Written
that,
in formal word.
See, I'm not saying utterances are ambiguous. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that from the perspective of the language system.
I think that needs to be made more explicit. How the language, because your argument is that the design of the language system is.
So we need a flexible and adaptable system which would allow us to meet the various communicative needs in a large number of situations.
See, that is typically used as an argument for compositionality or combinatorial features. But what's interesting here is that it's being used to justify the polysemy or the other ambiguous elements of language. And that needs to be made more explicitly. I mean, I can see why that you would have combinatoriality. So, in fact, every lexical entry has a unique meaning, but it's through composition or combinatoriality that you get many, many other meanings. But why should the lexicon be internally polysemous? So people like Kostyovsky have tried to make that argument for the generative lexicon. But I think it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more.
One of the reasons for that principle of compositionality is the principle of least effort, whereas lexical ambiguity is actually placing a whole lot of extra cognitive effort in disambiguation itself.
So you have to show that therefore it gets that somehow, maybe in repeated interactions or maybe in context or whatever, it actually leads to less effort overall, even though in mastering the lexicon it takes more effort. I mean, some such thing has to be shown. It'll be interesting. I mean, that's what I see. That's why it's an interesting, challenging project. Okay.